Christmas and New Year is over and we're heading into January. I want to get a really good crop going so that I have some food for mid to late spring, as well as give some plants that take a long time to get from seed through to fruiting the best chance possible to have a great harvest. So I'm going to give you 5 seeds you can be sowing now in order to achieve those goals. The first seed I'm recommending you try and sow this time of year is a carrot seed. Now this is a early variety, so it's an Amsterdam spring variety, and that means that it can be sown between now and July and hopefully can start to harvest them from April onwards. I'm going to be sowing these into containers so I can bring them into my greenhouse and keep them out of some of the harshest weather that we'll see over the coming months, and hopefully that means that we'll have a nice harvest of carrots ready for April. So I'm going to be sowing the carrot seeds into these tubs. These are just old recycling bins that we got given by the council, and I've repurposed them. They are full of old compost, and one of the good things about carrots is that they don't need really high quality soil in order to grow. So I've just given them a topping of some fresh compost, and that's what I'll be sowing into. So I've just applied a fine sprinkling of carrot seed across the top of the compost, and I'll cover this now with around about 1 centimetre's worth of more compost on top. The seeds will germinate where they are, and that does mean that if there's clumped together I might need to thin them out just to allow them space to grow. If they do grow through, and I do have some big ones, I can always pull them out and the remaining seedlings will then also grow into larger carrots. But at the moment I have a dog sticking its nose in, so I better get this sorted out. So next up are some plants that need quite a bit of growing time in the season to get to ripe fruit. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to fill these trays up with some peat-free compost. And this is what I'll be sowing into. You can, if you want to, sieve it. Might be a good thing to do, but I'm running out of light and time, so I'm just going to give this a go. I really want to grow some chili peppers this year, despite the fact that I have some sweet peppers that I am overwintering in my house at the moment. That's because chili peppers are really great. If you can dry them, you can then crush them up and use them in your cooking over winter. So these are a hot variety, and we'll see how they do. So I'm just going to sow multiple to each seed station in this tray here. And as I said before, just a little bit of peat-free compost. And I'm just going to put 5 to a station and then pop them on after they've grown up a bit. Give them a light covering of compost. So I don't want them to get too wet, I don't want the seeds to rot. The next seed on my list is onions, and these are a summer cropping variety, so these can be sown anywhere between December and through to April. I'm going to multi-sow these into these seed stations. That way I can get lots and lots of these into a much smaller space. It does mean that the bulbs will be a bit smaller, but you can pick them hopefully all together and have a really nice crop of them. So I'm going to put around about 5 seeds in each. It's not perfect, but you'll get the gist of it, just so that there's multiple seeds in each station. They may not all germinate. Once these seeds germinate and are old enough, these will be heading down the allotment to mature. The next plant is very similar to peppers in terms of it needs quite a long period to go from seed all the way through to fruit, and that's aubergine, or also known as eggplant. Now these will benefit from being soaked for 24 hours, and that's what I'm now going to head in to do, because the weather's turned on me and it's pretty horrible out here at the moment. I've had to turn the sensitivity of my camera up just because it's getting so dark. I'll come back tomorrow and show you the rest of this process. It's now 24 hours later and I've soaked my seeds. I'm going to pop them into a tray with 10 stations, and I've got 10 seeds, so 1 seed per station, and give them another good soaking once they're in the compost. Final seed I'm going to be sowing today is parsley, and this is a herb that can be sown pretty much all year round, but this time of the year it needs to be sown indoors and away from the frost. So should be okay sowing them here in the greenhouse. I'm going to sow the parsley seed into a pot of compost, which I'm just going to lightly sprinkle the seeds on top and give them a small covering of compost and then water them. When you are sowing seeds, it's really important to remember to label everything you're doing. That way you know what seeds are in the seed trays, but also what date you sowed them. That way you can know whether or not the germination has gone well or not, as we should be seeing some of this coming to life in the next week to 2 weeks. If you're going to try and sow seeds this time of the year, you're going to need some equipment to help the seeds to germinate and also help those young seedlings to grow without getting too leggy as they stretch out for the limited light that's available this time of the year. I use heated propagation benches and heated propagators to help me to do this. The heated propagation bench, I'll leave a link below in the description to my website where you can see how I built it, produces heat that warms the compost up from below, where it raises the temperature of the compost and it encourages the seeds to germinate. You do need to watch out that the compost doesn't dry out because of the heat you're applying to it, so it's worth putting some covers over the top to retain that moisture, and make sure you water them regularly. Heated propagators apply heat in a similar way from the base up, and they also generally come with a cover. And I have one that has some lights as well, which means that once the seeds have germinated and they're starting to turn into little seedlings, I can put them in there and apply some additional light so they don't get too leggy. If you don't have a greenhouse, you can use windowsills in your house as well. The temperature in that should be enough to encourage those seeds to germinate. But do make sure that they get adequate light, and think about bringing some grow lights in if you need to. Well, that's it for this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Over the next few weeks I'm going to be focusing on chickens, so if you're thinking about getting some chickens for your own garden or for your allotment or small holding, please look in on those videos and click the like and subscribe buttons and ring the bell for notifications. And I'll see you next time.